Welcome to the Mom Owned and Operated podcast, the podcast about moms and for moms, where we have candid conversations about running a business, raising a family, and remembering ourselves. I'm your host, Rita Suzanne, a single mom of four, digital strategist, and provider of no-nonsense business strategies and tactics. Hi, this is Mom Owned and Operated. I'm Rita Suzanne, and today we have my friend Melissa with us. Hey, Melissa.
Hello.
Tell us a little bit about you, your family, and your business.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you so much, Rita, for having me today. And thank you, everybody, for listening. I promise it'll be worth your while. I am a voice actor and the narrator of a short story sci-fi podcast called Untold Tales. So for all of you moms who are fellow nerds, this will be interesting for you. So yeah, I'm an electrical engineer turned voice actor. So that's basically where I am in the world right now.
And your family?
Well, I actually got married when I was 40 years young, to my husband for my first marriage, and I had my first and only daughter. I really would like another one, but I'm 47, and it's like
right.
But
that's a lot to do at 47.
It's a lot. But so I have a almost 5-year-old daughter now. Her name is Indy, and we live in Phoenix, Arizona.
Oh, you're so lucky because it's so warm.
Yeah, most of the year it's actually a little too warm. I'm going to be honest.
Oh yeah, I know. But so as I mentioned, I lived in California for 15 years and I just loved it. I loved it so much because I could go hiking every day. But the thing is that if you don't go early in the morning, oh, you're going to regret your life. You know, it's totally horrible. And, so it's like either in the morning or at night. Otherwise, stay inside.
Why is everything for moms in the morning? Like, we need our sleep. Like, I need to sleep. And yet everything that, needs to happen is like between 4 and 7.
I'm sleeping.
I'm sleeping. I am sleeping.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. It's always, everybody's like, oh, get up earlier and do all the things. I can't do it. I'm not going to do it, people. No. But, okay. So as I mentioned, I am so curious of what is a voiceover actor?
Well, actually, it's interesting you say it that way because, this is a discussion within the voice acting community, which is actually an acting community. That's also a big controversy right now. So they call it voice acting or voiceover artist or voice acting. There's no standard term for the craft, but it is acting. And basically, voiceover is any voice that you hear without a body attached to it. That's a voiceover.
Like audiobooks and things like that?
Yes. Audiobooks. Whenever you watch YouTube and you hear somebody talking, but you don't see their mouth moving, that's a voiceover. Any transportation, when you hear announcements on transportation, any commercial you hear on the radio, like if you think about it, you hear voiceovers probably every 30 seconds all day long.
Right.
And half the time, one of the interesting things about this profession is that basically you're anonymous most of the time. Nobody knows who you are. And, the voice of all of the Alexas, Siri, all of those things, every cartoon your kid watches is a voiceover. It's a voice actor. So you don't realize how much performances touch your life, like on a minute by minute basis. They determine what you're going to buy, what you're going to eat, what you're going to wear, what you're going to watch on Netflix. Like, it's amazing.
It's true. I mean, even for audiobooks, to go back to that a little bit, if I buy an audiobook and the person reading it is boring or sounds computerish, I'm not going to finish it. I'm not even probably going to get through the first chapter because it's boring. I usually like them when it's the actual author because they know the emphasis and they know, but I've had some other ones that are pretty good.
Yeah, well, it's surprising because sometimes the author isn't the best person to perform their work, depending. Like, I know this one woman, she published a book and she did her audiobook, and she said it was important to her to be in her own voice because she's Latina,
Okay.
and her voice, her audience is
Connected.
exactly.
Yeah.
But for instance, the author that I work with the Untold Tales podcast,
Mhm.
he is a retired, he's done everything. Like he's been a fighter pilot, he's been an engineer, he's been a cartoonist, like he did everything.
Mhm. That's
And
awesome.
he's amazing, but his voice, he's like, please, you would not listen to me for more than 2 seconds.
Mhm.
So,
Because it's like gravelly or just not
well, he
appealing.
just, has maybe a voice like this, but you just don't want to listen to it for, like a half an hour, for an hour.
Oh no, you couldn't. You couldn't.
I'm exaggerating, but I'm just saying, like, some voices lend themselves better, like they're
Mhm.
maybe more chocolatey, smooth, delicious
Mhm. Mhm.
to listen to.
I know one of my guests yesterday, she had the most like relaxing,
Yeah.
cute little voice. I was just like, oh, like I felt so soothed, listening to her, so relaxed. So I could see how that would be. So it's interesting because I know somebody else who's a voiceover artist, right? And
Sure.
I just never really understood what she offered and how it related to business. So, it's like our type of business entrepreneur and what she was providing.
Yeah.
So I love to hear your explanation of it because it actually helps me understand how that would be important.
Yeah. Well, I have an S corporation, so I am
Hmm.
a corporation. I
Right.
file all the paperwork in Delaware.
Hmm.
And my company is Melissa Del Toro International. That's my
Hmm.
entity. So
Right.
just like I could offer services, I could hire people just like any other company. The
Hmm.
services that I provide would be audio services.
Right.
So, there's a lot of different places you can find work as a voice actor. A lot
Hmm.
of people will go to, voices.com or pay to plays, and, they'll see, I need a voiceover for this
Hmm.
little explainer video, 1 minute explainer video. And people
Okay.
understand the product, I think, but we as voice actors have to market ourselves. We have to do, all the direct marketing.
Hmm.
You have to do your demos and put them out there.
Right.
Demos are basically an audio resume of what you can
Right.
do. So voice actors can work in commercials. So you'd have a commercial demo. They can work in animation. So you'd have like an
Hmm.
animation or a cartoon demo of all the voices you can do.
Right.
And one of the things that they want to see as an actor is breadth of character.
Mm.
Like, what are all the different voices you can do? Can you do a tiny little voice? Or, like, can you do big voices or whatever? And can you hold the performance in that voice?
Right.
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 Right. So you can do audiobooks like you had mentioned, and you would have an audiobook, resume, audio
Hmm.
resume, which would be a demo. So there's a lot of different genres, video games, you know,
Right.
you name it, apps, all the apps on your kids' Amazon Fire or their tablet or whatever,
Hmm.
all of them have voiceovers. So it just,
Wow, it's just such a massive industry that,
it's
I think that we don't even think
toys,
about. Yeah.
toys, everything has a
Wow.
voice in it.
That's awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
I because then it's, you can break into whatever industry you really want, I
Yeah, you
guess.
totally can. And then, just to wrap up the back end of the question, because I'm sure people are like, okay, well, fine. So you go out there, you email somebody, you get work. Well, then you have to do the work. You have to
Hmm.
invoice for the work. You have to record the work. You have to pay taxes just like any other business. So
Right.
it's basically running the operations, marketing, finance, accounting, everything of a
Hmm.
business.
Yeah, and then it's even more challenging because you have your daughter and all of these other responsibilities. So tell us, like, what does one of your average days look like? Mhm.
Well, I will tell you this. The inner game, the mental game of entrepreneurship and starting your own business is much more important
Yes.
than anything you actually do in a day. So it's more important what you believe, what you can accomplish, than the actual busy work of a day.
Hmm.
So I will say it looks different for everyone. For us, I wake up when my body wakes up. Like, I don't put any pressure on myself like I did in corporate to get up at 6:30 and da da da, unless I have, a
Appointment.
podcast interview
Hmm.
or something like that, or a client, um, recording or something like that. But usually I get up, do all the things, meals, dishes, everything like that. I'll throw some laundry in. Basically, my day is timed around the quiet times. Because that's when I have to record. So I have a professional home studio that I built that's, it's 360 sound treated. And I have my microphone that you could see if you're watching the video portion of this podcast, and all the equipment. But in a day, if I know I have to record, I live under the flight path of Luke Air Force Base.
Oh, well, no wonder you built your studio.
So I have to think about, they usually run drills starting at about 11 o'clock, and airplane noise in a recording, which I'm sure, Rita, because you do recording for your living too. It leaves a low rumble noise that rips a hole through all the audio. So basically I have to record long recording, like audiobooks, e-learning, anything I have to do for a long time. I have to get my kid out of the house to grandma's or to with her dad.
Yeah.
And then I have to block out that time, shut off all the heaters, the air conditioning, any motors that are in the house, I have to shut them off. So you can imagine in Phoenix in the summer.
You're dying. Yeah.
I have to super cool it to 50 degrees. I super cool it down and I shut off the air conditioning and then I start working.
Yeah. And then you start sweating.
And this is for everybody. There's no booth out there that's perfect. And I'm sure anybody who podcasts knows the feeling. So that's the answer to the question, is that I basically just, work around the times that I need it to be quiet, and then I just adjust accordingly. And the most important thing I tell you as a mom is to always plan for the next day the night before. Because then when you wake up, you know what you're doing.
Right.
So once everyone's asleep, even if you're in your bed at 11:30 p.m. with your phone, just type out what you have to do tomorrow. Or if you're more organized, you can use Asana, or just make sure you know what's due, what's coming up. And I also put things in there, like if my kid needs something, I also make sure to make it into the calendar too.
That's a good idea.
Because anything I have to do makes it into
so
the
you
calendar.
Can be realistic with your expectations of what you're actually going to accomplish for the day.
Yep.
So is that part, that's also part of setting boundaries, which you said you're super good at with your clients, which I love, because sometimes that's the hardest part, is setting the boundaries with the client, right? Because you want to make them happy. You want the experience to be good. And so sometimes I can see boundaries going way out of line, but I feel like that's part of, taking care of yourself as well. Right. So this podcast is more about running a business, raising a family, and remembering yourself. So with that in mind, what do you do or recommend in order to remember yourself?
So I'm going to be honest. I mean, I always come last. I'm not, I know that people who don't have kids say and I used to say, put yourself first, and it was true. But honestly, you do have to put yourself first, in that you can't fall apart, because then you can't take care of anyone. But I would say setting boundaries with your clients is the most important thing. With contracts, don't be afraid to make them sign a contract and give you some money before you even start working, because that establishes that you're a professional, that your time is valuable, and that, you have picked up this piece of time and set it aside for this person. And you want them to really respect that, because when they think you're just working all night long and all day, they'll just keep throwing things at you. So you say, I am taking this piece of very precious time and giving it to you. And,
and this is what I'm going to do. And I think that's easy. That's not that hard for them to acknowledge, this is what we agree upon.
Yep. And also just telling them what it takes. So a lot of times people are surprised by the rate of voiceovers. They're like, that's so expensive. It's just a 2-minute video. Why does it cost so much money? And it's sometimes you have to educate, if you're a photographer or if you're, an editor, you have to say, okay, I have to do all the communications of the project. So that's part of the project. I have to upload and download your stuff. I have to record it, and then I make mistakes and have to re-record it
Mm-hmm.
and have to send it back and forth. So actually 2 minutes may take an hour.
Right.
You know,
And because they want it to be perfect. So if you want it to be right, then it is going to take that detailed, look at it.
Yep.
So, okay.
Yep.
So you have to do something for yourself, Melissa. I know you do.
It's true. So, well, I make sure to hydrate. That's the one thing I have to do, because as a narrator, it's a very surprisingly physical job.
Well, you're speaking from your diaphragm, right?
Yes. Well, you're just using saliva. It's just a lot of just churning.
Right.
So staying hydrated for sure. My self-care that I do is mental, mostly, is like meditation, is like I do a lot of law of attraction and just, visualizing and really monitoring my mind and where my mind is going and my attitude. Because
Right.
I think as moms, our attitude establishes the attitude of everyone in the family. So if we're unhappy, everybody's going to be, I don't know if this podcast is PG.
You're fine. I curse a lot.
Totally bitchy.
Right. Exactly.
Totally bitchy. But if you're giving out those stressed vibes to your kids, like, don't be surprised if they come back to you just
with an attitude. Right.
Your behavior. So I really try, like, whenever my daughter is sounding the alarm, I just stop and I'm like, okay, I can tell you need love right now. So we shut everything off. We do whatever it is she needs. And it'll take like 10 minutes of my day, which is not a big deal. But for myself, just monitoring my inner game and making sure I eat all the meals.
Right.
Make sure I tell everybody what I need to tell them and I'm not holding emotions inside. Like,
that's important too.
Yeah. Like with my husband or with my clients, or just like coming from a place of love, like, look, like, I'm a person too, and I have feelings.
Right.
And you can't be treating me like that, because I don't even treat people like that,
Right.
So
yeah, I love that too, because that's important. I think that a lot of times people as moms will kind of internalize their feelings, especially to those close around them. And then that can just lead to even more problems down the line. That's why I love journaling, because it has helped me discover so much about myself and why I react to certain situations. And, it also helps me with the goal setting and things like that. But I think it's so important to do at least something for yourself. And like you said, sometimes in the moment is the best time, because it's like, okay, I'm feeling stressed out. Let me go for a walk. Let me take 5 minutes to like go sit in my car. Let me do something, for myself, so that I can come back to you in a way that is the most healthy way.
Yeah, I've done that to my daughter. I've said, I'm putting you in your room to protect you from me.
Right.
Because right now I feel out of control. I'm angry. I'm hungry.
Right.
And
I need a timeout, but I just need you to go to your room so I can have my timeout.
Right. And it's like, and it's also, when we teach our kids that we need a timeout too, it sort of creates a safe space in our home to have emotions. Like, it's okay to cry. It's okay to be angry with me. It's okay to be stressed. It's okay to be overly, like, crazy excited about something, but like, not everybody's in the same place at the same time. So I just always want her to feel like she can talk to me. And, like, that's self-care too, for me to feel like my kid can talk to me.
Right. Because I felt like when I was a kid, I felt like my mom would, well, not my mom specifically, but I felt like my feelings were being stifled a lot. It's like,
don't cry.
Right. Don't cry. You be quiet and listen to what I'm saying, versus let's having a conversation and going back and forth with it. But like you, sometimes I get so angry. I'm just like, no, go, right.
I'm going to blow up. You have to get out of here.
We'll come back to this in a half hour. Please leave me, because I have 4 kids and they're preteens to teen. And so, it's 10, 11, 12, 13. So, they're in a very emotional state sometimes. And especially now with them all being home And then, the lack of socialization is really, because I'm like their friend,
Yes.
they want to come and tell me all the things that they would probably normally tell their friend about,
Yes.
which
It's really
I
fun.
like, I want them to feel that they can tell me anything, but it's also draining for me as well,
Yeah. Yeah,
so.
and you don't want to be ungrateful in their childhood because we only go through this. They're only one once, they're only two once, they're only
Mhm.
13
Right.
once, and you don't want to miss that by being like a
Right.
total,
Right.
screwy.
Or like being so busy with work that you don't even experience life, which is why I feel like most moms always come last,
Yeah.
because we are just programmed to think that everybody else should come before us. And
Yeah.
and that's not the case. Like, we really do need to take care of ourselves as well, even if it does mean the timeout. Every
Yeah.
morning I lock myself in my room for a straight hour. I'm like, I turn on my music and I'm like, I'm getting dressed, leave me.
And it's funny because I get so resentful with my husband because he can leave the house and work, or
Mhm.
he can go close himself in the room and work, and it can be quiet for him for multiple hours. But then I think to myself, I built my business this way. Like,
Mhm.
I built this. So if
Right.
I'm not happy with it, then
Fix
I need
it.
to look at myself, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
It's not his fault that I
Right.
built my business this way. I
Well,
could,
and men, they think about stuff in a totally different way. They don't feel that same drain as we do typically, right? Like, they don't feel guilty. They don't have the dad guilt typically,
no, but they also take care of the kids a lot differently. Like, I'll go and he's sleeping and she's
Right.
playing and I'm like, who's
Right.
taking
How are
care of
you
the
watching
kid?
her? No, I know. And like, my kids, when they go to my ex-husband's house, and I'm just like, he's more fun than me, like, we're the responsible ones,
Yeah.
and they get to be, not always, but they, get to be the fun one.
Yeah.
So.
That's so funny. I don't know if you watch cartoons, but I'm all about cartoons. And there's this new
Mhm.
cartoon called Bluey. Well, I
No,
don't know
I
if you
haven't
know
seen
Bluey.
it.
Okay,
Mm-mm.
maybe because your kids are older, but it is totally like there was one episode where the dad went to the pool and he took the kids, on a whim. Let's go to the pool. And then the kids are saying, I'm hungry. Well, I didn't bring food. I'm thirsty. Well, I didn't bring any drinks, and then the
Right.
mom shows up at the end with the drinks and
With
the
all the things.
sunscreen.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
she's boring, but we need her.
Right, exactly. And
So,
and but I feel like too, like, we are, sometimes a disciplinarian, but also like the nurturer, it's
yeah.
like, especially like for me, because I'm single, I have to be all the things for everybody all the time, which is, it can be so exhausting. So what has been like your biggest challenge since you started your business? How long have you been in business?
Oh, um, so it's a really long and interesting story that I'm sure no one wants to hear. But so I've been in business for 6 years. I
Hmm.
started my business in New York City. I was an electrical engineer and I was working in Manhattan in a big high rise, making a lot of money.
Hmm.
And I had my Jerry Maguire moment one day when,
Yeah.
one of the managers came to me and basically just straight up told me a bunch of lies in my face, and I threw my
Yeah.
notebook at him and left crying.
Oh, so you did not get up and say, who's coming with me?
I did not. I mean, it was pathetic because I even had like the sweater trailing from the back of my clothes. Like, I just wrapped it around my waist, and
Yeah.
it was so sad. But I've had my business for 6 years. I started it without a plan,
Hmm.
actually, because I was just like, I can't work for anybody
Right.
anymore. Like, I have my MBA, my electrical engineering degree. I have my and it's like everybody else is setting my value.
Hmm.
And like, I was just looking forward, like, I'm always going to be held down.
Right.
And I was like, that's not acceptable.
Hmm.
Like, I have so much more to offer and I have so many more people I want to reach. And these people don't even appreciate cartoons.
Right. 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 I know. And I felt the same way. I'm like, I've hit a ceiling. Like, I'm not going anywhere else unless I get out of, but I also wanted to spend time with my kids. I wanted to
Yeah.
be home with them.
Yeah.
Little did I know how much work it takes, but, so I literally like took a leap just like you, just said, I had been wanting to, but
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't know. And I, talk about
How do
this
you do it?
sometimes.
Like,
well, I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up,
exactly.
you
Neither
know,
did I.
so I had to kind of, just take baby steps and figure it out before I took the leap, because I am a control freak. So
Yeah, no, and probably a lot of people listening to this podcast are, probably a lot like us, where they want to have control over their life. They want to find a way to work for themselves without having to be guilty for working really
Right.
hard. And then somebody says, "Oh, you were late 5 minutes."
Right.
It's
Or
like,
having to ask to take your kid to the doctor,
yeah, heaven help you.
right.
You
And if you don't have any time off, like, you're not getting paid for that,
Yeah,
there's
and it's
certain
like,
things.
I don't even understand how we're supposed to do two jobs simultaneously. Well, more than that, because having
Right.
a
The
significant
home.
other is a job
Right.
too. Yeah, but I mean, and anyway, we could probably have a million-hour conversation about that.
Of course. So let me see. Oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought. Ugh.
Well, you were asking me how long ago I started my business.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
And
because I was asking you what's been the biggest challenge that you faced since you started your business?
since I started my business, well, the biggest challenge I have been facing is, who do I serve? I'm not gonna lie to you, like, that people ask me that, like, any program that you buy right now, anybody listening, any program you buy from a coach, the first thing they're gonna ask you is, who do you serve and how do you help? That's what they're gonna ask you. And I have freaking no idea. Like, I'm still trying to figure it out. Like, who do I serve and how do I help? Because much like probably everybody listening to this, I'm a very multi-passionate person. So there's a lot of things I could do to help.
Right. But the
So
problem is, I'm not a coach, but I am a designer, and branding is my thing. And so part of it, the first thing is really finding out who your target audience is.
yeah. And how do you
And
know?
I have a freebie all about it, and I'll link it below. And then
Ooh,
you and I can go over it after.
I would love that.
It's 4 questions, and once you answer those questions, you'll be able to really hone in. I think the results are better when you do it with somebody else, so that they can actually really pull from you, because a lot of times when you do it by yourself, you are just saying the cookie cutter answer that you think everybody wants to hear.
Well, everyone I hear, everyone I talk to who, like, on these networking events, Zoom networking, everyone's like, I serve everyone. Like,
No, you
insurance
can't.
agents, they're insurance agents. Whoever you'll send to me, I serve everyone. Well, okay, that
But
doesn't help.
so yeah, the problem is that, and this is what I recommend, is there's this thing called the power of one. And so when you define the power of one, which is the one person who is your target, then you're able to, like, really write your content to them, find them online, right? And figure out what they want, how you need to serve them, how you can meet and exceed their expectations by just targeting that one person. But that doesn't mean you're going to, like, throw everybody off. It's just that this is who my target is, and that's who I'm writing for. That's who I'm speaking to. That's who I want to bring into my business.
Right. Well, let me ask you this, Rita, because maybe you can give some live quote unquote coaching. Because so I am a voice actor, and I have several different audiences that I work with, because I am very much into female empowerment. So a lot of my content is based on empowering women to go, like what we're talking about right now, like, go for it, like, go after your dreams, carpe diem kind of stuff. But I also have my podcast, which is a sci-fi podcast, which is not everyone's cup of tea. So it's like, would you recommend different, like, when you post for the different things, you sort of like speak to the different audience, or are you just rooting out the female empowered sci-fi people?
It's really hard because, it is 2 different audiences. But I mean, is it though? Because your sci-fi could be appealing too. Like you said, some females are into that.
Well,
And
half my
so,
audience is women.
yeah,
Half
so
my
maybe
audience is
you're
women.
speaking to the female person who's into the sci-fi stuff,
Yeah.
But if it's a totally different audience, then I wouldn't, you have to get to a different platform. Otherwise, you seem like you're confused. when
Yeah,
you're
it's true.
posting, and then they read it and they're like, what the hell is she talking about? You know?
So if you want to follow my Instagram, you can
Right.
totally DM me.
Right. You know, so because I've seen people's feeds, like even people that I've followed for a long time, and then all of a sudden they start going off on tangents where they're totally different, and then they come back to their original thing, and then you know, they go off and they come back, and it just seems very like confused. They seem very confused.
Yeah,
But
right.
you know, and
Right.
so it just needs to be, you just really need to speak to that one person, and that one person could be the same person for the sci-fi and the client, right?
So if you're multi-passionate, it doesn't mean you're confused. And if you're confused, it doesn't mean you're multi-passionate.
Right. Like that's what I'm saying. Once you figure out who your person is, that
Yeah.
they might have the same interest, because I find it that a lot of times your person is you,
Yeah,
who, you know, who hasn't, you know, gotten to where you are right now.
that's true. That's true. I heard it said once that your ideal client is you 5 years ago.
Yep.
That's what
And
I heard.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's true. They can be. And, you know, obviously they can, you know, I have a lot of clients who are similar. They're mostly health and well coaches and creators. But that doesn't mean that's all of my clients haven't always fallen within those categories, you know. So it doesn't mean I don't serve men, but mostly my clients have been females.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. We talked a lot.
I know. So anyways, we just branched off into a whole branding thing, but Melissa, tell everybody where they can find you online.
Absolutely. Well, the best place to find me and all of my socials would be on my website at https, it's a secure website, //www.melissadeltoro.com. That's Melissa with one L and two S's, Del Toro with one L and one R. Always get that.
And I'll link it below, so you know, people who are actually watching can go straight there. And then are you on social, or you're on Instagram?
I am. So the two places I'm most active are on Instagram and LinkedIn. I do also post to my Facebook business profile, but Instagram is probably the place where you can get to know me the most intimately. So
right. Yeah. You know, different platforms, different content, but again, this speaks to the power of one and where your people are. But yeah. Okay, thank you so much for stopping by, and I loved getting to know you.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful getting to know you and your audience. Thank you, Rita.
And there you have it. I want to encourage you to remember that being a mom who runs her own business is not easy. We all struggle, but just keep moving forward and don't forget to make time for yourself. As moms, we are usually the first thing to go to the bottom of the list. If your business is overwhelming you and you need real solutions, not just some sugar-coated suggestions, apply to work with me at ritasuzanne.com/apply.